Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel where we finally have some more content. I have to apologise for the lack of video in the past few days. We've had some technical difficulties, let's call it. A lot of files corrupting, things not working. But hopefully we are back today. Hopefully you guys are going to see this and I'm not just talking to myself. Because today we need to talk about Marc Cucurella, heavily linked with a move to Manchester United. And I mean, it looks like a matter of time before this deal is going to go through in some form of loan deal. In fact, by the time this is uploaded, it might have already happened. So today I want to talk about his strengths, weaknesses, where he fits in as a player, because a lot of people aren't too inspired by this transfer, and I understand why. He wasn't exactly great for Chelsea last season. However, I would just like to take you back 12 months. Before we get into anything else, just rewind your mind 12 months. When everyone was saying, if Manchester City get Cucurella, it's unfair. They're going to win the league again. It's unfair. He's too good. £60 million move to Chelsea. Transformative signing. He's going to transform the way that Chelsea play. He's so good technically. He's the perfect modern day fullback. So much has changed in a year. Everyone now really doesn't rate him. But there is still a really good player in there, so let's take a look at it. So before we continue into the video, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, JerseyFifa.com, the home of all of the greatest football kits. Whether that be the new latest releases or the old classic ones like this, Jersey FIFA has something for everyone, and now you can check it out yourself using the link in the description down below. And also make sure to use code JerseyFifa for 10% off when you order. So we'll start off with his FBref report from the past 365 days, of course perfectly matching the time that he has been at Chelsea. And I'll be honest, these numbers aren't too bad. Of course, things like progressive carries, successful take-ons, things like that could be a little bit better. But he wasn't doing too badly for Chelsea. I think you've also got to consider that the club was incredibly unstable last season. About 100 different players were brought into the club, different managers, different systems. It was a mess at Chelsea. No one performed particularly well at Chelsea. And the season before, his numbers at Brighton were really good. There's clearly a good player in there. We can see here progressive passes, progressive carries, progressive passes received. Cucurella had a really good season at Brighton the other year and was largely being labelled as one of the best fullbacks in the Premier League. Now, people will say he done well at Brighton but then really struggled at Chelsea. Maybe he was just a one-system player. What I would like to do, though, is maybe make the comparison to someone like Bissouma, who was really very good for Brighton, went to Spurs last season, a horrible structure at Spurs, a horrible setup, a bit chaotic, a bit of a mess, and Bissouma was really poor. We see him in the opening weeks under Ange Postecoglou at Spurs, and he looks a completely different player. He looks back to that Brighton player. So maybe we could see something for Cucurella, because I genuinely think there is a good player in there. In terms of what he's good at, he's a very technical player, very good on the ball. Standing at about 5'8" tall, he's got a really good low centre of gravity, meaning that he's really good on the turn. He's got a very small turning radius. So when players are pressing him, he does have the ability to turn away from pressure. Kind of really smooth on the turn, actually, almost on a pinpoint. Having turned and kind of received the ball in these areas and looked to play forward, he's a good passer as well. When a player comes from the Barcelona Academy, you kind of get an idea of what sort of player they're going to be. They are going to be very technical. They are going to be comfortable in these areas of the pitch. Cucurella is no different. He's also a really good passer of the ball as well. A tad safe, perhaps, at times for Chelsea last season. There were times when, there were games, actually, in fact, where he was kind of getting clowned for the fact that Mudryk was so open on the left wing and Cucurella just wouldn't pass to him. I'm not really sure what that was all about. At Brighton, we used to see it much more. He was much more progressive with his passing, and in general, he is a very good passer. We can see that in both these seasons here. His pass completion numbers are very good, as well as his passes attempted. So this is a high-volume player, someone who is used to being in a possession side. In terms of other ways of progressing the ball, he's a pretty decent ball carrier as well. I wouldn't describe him as someone who's going to necessarily pick the ball up here and kind of dribble his way through the pitch as such. Kind of dribbling past players, not really his game. But if players are not in position and there is a bit of open space, he is the sort of player which can drive forward with the ball at his feet, and I quite like him in that way. And again, you can tell he's from the Barcelona Academy, La Masia. He's very good on the ball, very technical, very secure, very technically proficient. He's also really athletic as well. Aside to his game, which probably has been a little bit underrated during his time at Chelsea, he is actually really good at bombing forward. He's a very good player on the overlap. He can regularly kind of fly into these areas, up and down the pitch all day long. Cucurella is very good in that way. He's also pretty decent in the final third as well. Again, we saw for Brighton the other season, his deliveries into the box, into the penalty area, with his crosses from wide areas under Graham Potter were really good. I think he was in the top 7 for crosses at one point in the Premier League. He genuinely does have a good delivery from this area. Now, these are all things which people have kind of forgotten about because of a bad year with Chelsea. But like I said, I still think there's a decent player in there. I recommended him for Manchester City last summer. I recommended him again for Newcastle this summer. This is a good player who has become a little bit underrated. Cucurella is also a really good player because of his versatility as well. Being a technical footballer means he's comfortable in a lot of different positions. That can be left centre-back, that can be left-back, that can be left wing-back, left midfield, left wing. He's played plenty of different positions in his career. And in terms of, if we're talking about how does that fit in at Manchester United from a technical point of view and a tactical point of view, more importantly, it works quite well. Erik ten Hag regularly likes one of his fullbacks to drop deeper to form a back three. Definitely something Cucurella can do. He's literally played left centre-back in a back three before, so he can do that. But he can also be a player which at times inverts a little bit higher into half spaces. Let's say the fullback on the other side is deeper. Cucurella is more than comfortable moving into positions like this. Again, having that really good turn radius allows him to receive the ball under pressure in these areas. Very capable of playing in this way. But also, he can get forward into the final third and overlap, allowing someone like Marcus Rashford to come inside. So again, from a tactical point of view, it does make sense. Erik ten Hag likes a fullback which can do a few different things. Cucurella is that. He can play as a traditional left-back quite deep. He can be a left centre-back in a three. He can invert into midfield. He's not optimal in this area, but he can do it. He can overlap into the final third. At times, he can also underlap in the final third as well. I do get the idea of it. Now, in terms of creativity in these areas, his combination play still needs a little bit of work, but this isn't an old footballer. At 25 years old, there is still room for him to develop. And again, on a loan move, I don't mind the idea of it. I do not mind it. Cucurella is also underrated from a defensive point of view as well. He's someone who works incredibly hard defensively. Again, he's very athletic, getting up and down the pitch, but he always puts a shift in these areas. He's always tracking back down that left-hand side. He's also, if we go back to a tactical board, really good on the high press as well. One of the best pressing fullbacks in the world. I genuinely believe that. In the middle third of the pitch and also in the final third of the pitch, he is very good on the press. His reaction is always first foot forward. That is something United need. Will Erik ten Hag use him in that way? I don't know. But if United could bring Cucurella in and use him as someone which becomes connected to the press, I actually think that could suit him really well, allowing Marcus Rashford to be a bit narrower at times, allowing United to squeeze players up the pitch to try and win the ball back. Cucurella is good in the press in this way. He's also not bad in the air. He's only 5'8", which will be a concern, and we'll come back onto that. But he's not bad in the air. His percentages are normally pretty good. He normally lingers around the 60% mark for his aerial duel success rate, which isn't bad. It's not great, but it's not bad at all. So overall, there are positives to Cucurella's game. Now, I don't want to get overexcited because he has had a bad year for Chelsea. He wasn't very good at all last season. But I still think fundamentally, there are a lot of things to like about him. He's very technically secure. He's very versatile. He can play in a lot of different positions. Very tactically intelligent, which of course helps with that. In the final third, he'll provide from a defensive point of view. He works hard. He presses high up the pitch. He's also half decent in 1v1 duels. There is quite a lot to like. At the same time, of course, he didn't have a great year for Chelsea, and there are areas of his game where I have concerns. One of those areas of concerns would be his confidence. Now, it might sound a bit of a lazy thing to throw out, but a player being low on confidence can be a problem. We've seen it with Mason Mount, not really having any confidence after coming from Chelsea. Could we see something similar with Cucurella? Confidence is such a big thing in football, because at the end of the day, no matter how much these players are paid, they're humans at the end of the day. So when they receive criticism, or when they go through bad patches, or go through whatever off the pitch we don't even know about, confidence is a big thing in how a player performs. Cucurella has to be low on confidence in some sense. The fact that Chelsea don't even want to keep him and are happy to loan him to a rival potentially. So that would be a little bit of a concern. The other concern for me would be his jumping in defence. So I like the fact that he's a high pressing defender. That's a really good thing. However, at times it does come back to bite him a little bit. When a player is kind of getting the ball in this sort of position here, at times he just jumps far too early and comes out. Now at times that's going to really work because he'll win the ball in these areas brilliantly. At times, though, in his own half, or kind of his own third of the pitch, if you like, in these areas, sometimes he's a bit too aggressive in stepping out, and what this does is it leaves so much room in behind for someone else to attack. That would be an area where I would be really concerned with Cucurella. Now, to be fair, it's something that Shaw has struggled with in the opening weeks of the season as well, so it's almost not a new problem for United to deal with, but it still doesn't mean it's ideal. You don't want Lisandro Martinez constantly being dragged into these positions. At the moment, with Cucurella coming into the side, I would be worried about that being the case. My other concern would be his concentration levels. He doesn't always seem switched on at the back. You can see him often in situations like this where perhaps he'll have one man behind him, one man in front of him with the ball. He just seems to switch off and lose that player behind him at times. Now, this isn't a regular occurrence. It's not like he's going to switch off 3 or 4 times a game. But even, as harsh as it might sound, even once a month, that switch off can cost you at the highest level. And in the Premier League and the Champions League, it really is the highest level you're playing at. So that would be another area where I would be slightly concerned. It would be his switching off in these areas. Also his 1 versus 1 ability. Defensively, at times he's really good in these situations, and at other times he kind of lunges in too early, and if a winger has quick feet, they're just gone. They're past Cucurella far too easily. So that would be another concern, because again, you are leaving Lisandro Martinez exposed. And then my other concern, and this is one of the main ones, would be a lack of physicality, a lack of height. If we're talking about Rafael Varane potentially out for the next 6 weeks as well, you've got Wan-Bissaka, poor in the air, Lindelof, not the most dominant defender you'll ever see, Lisandro Martinez, bang average in the air, Cucurella, average at best in the air, and also 5'8". This is obviously going to lead to real aerial concerns. I would be worried about the team from this point of view. I wonder if maybe to kind of combat it a little bit, we could see Dalot coming to the side, because he is better in the air than what Wan-Bissaka is. So maybe we could see him brought in for that reason. Maybe we'll see someone bigger brought into the midfield to try and help out as well. I would be a little bit concerned about that. Teams which want to go long and kind of, well, not even long ball, just kind of quickly on the transition, quickly moving the ball forward. There's a lot of powerful runners in the Premier League at the moment in transition. This United back line, it doesn't look like one which could particularly deal with that, and that would be a concern. But at the end of the day, with business this late in the window, when you're quickly trying to fill a gap because one of your key players has got injured, you're never going to find the perfect replacement. United never wanted to replace Luke Shaw this summer. They've been forced into this at late notice. It's going to be difficult to find the perfect profile. Cucurella, I think, has a lot of positives, and if he comes in, I think he will do well. I think he is one of the better options out of those which have been listed, compared to players like Spinazzola, Tagliafico, Reguilon, Marcos Alonso. I do think Marc Cucurella is the best fit from a tactical point of view. Like I said, we're going to have to see kind of what Cucurella you get. At Brighton, he was really, really very good. At Chelsea, he really struggled. Hopefully, we get the better side of him, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm really interested, though, to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you really underwhelmed by this as a bit of business, or do you think it's a good stopgap? Do you think he's a player which, if he plays well, could join United on a permanent? Let me know all of that in the comments down below, because genuinely on this one, I really want to hear your thoughts, because I think it might divide opinion a little bit in the fan base, so I'm interested to see it. But apart from that, I think that's all I've got to say for today's video. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it. I hope you've learned a little bit about Marc Cucurella. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.